Happy Wednesday, guys. It was a monster night in the NHL last night. 13 games, a lot of great games across the slate. We saw a lot of action right from the first games right to that last game, Vegas and Tampa Bay. I'm happy about that Tampa Bay Vegas game. But that's mainly because I had the over in that one. But three good games today. At least two of them are pretty good. We're going to talk Toronto and Washington. The Capitals making a push for the playoffs. Leafs looking to bounce back from a loss in Philly last night. Arizona, Dallas, and then we're going to finish it off with a couple teams who were in action last night, off wins and both needing to win tonight, Minnesota and the LA Kings. With me, our regular guest, Don Buster. Buster, I'm gonna throw it to you here, but I'm gonna say the Leafs minus 140. The take back on Washington it right now is at I'm seeing at plus 115. How are things with you? And then give me your thoughts on this Leafs Washington game, and then I'll give everyone in the chat a my viewpoint on this game.
Yeah, Carmine, things are all good. College basketball coming up, and looking forward to that. But yeah, as you said, 13 games last night and then 3 tonight. The schedule's been like that all year, but got 3 pretty good games tonight. A lot of times we've had 3 games where a lot of big favorites. But yeah, this Toronto Washington game, pretty interesting game here, if you ask me. The Leafs are playing on a back-to-back, but Washington's playing that first game after a 5-game road trip, and it's West Coast road trip. So, and last night, as everybody, if most people on here are Leaf fans, so I'm sure a lot of people were watching that Leaf game last night, and they were, I would have to say, they were a no-show for the first 2 periods, exactly. Just a no-show. And then they come out in the third, and you know what? Played well, just couldn't get there. They're down 3-0, couldn't get there. And but I think that third period tonight will help, or sorry, last night we will help the Leafs here tonight. I think that carries over here. And I am shocked. You had said the line was 140. I even looked maybe 15 minutes before we came on for the show here, Carmen. I see it's Washington money's coming. It's down to 135. Now, I'm not sure if that's because Wall is going to probably be a net for Toronto tonight, but little shocked that it's down that much because I actually like the Leafs to win here. And the only game they've played this year so far, they won 4-1, and it was in Washington. Carmine, the line on that game was 170 favorite for the Leafs. Now, I know Washington are playing a little bit better, but they're in a real tough spot here with that long road trip. So we've already gave out Toronto to our clients. We like Toronto to end. They're on a 2-game losing streak here. We think that ends. And we think Washington's 3-game winning streak will also end here. I will, as for the total, I kind of do lean under the 6.5 here, as these teams have already, as I said, played under already 4-1 game. And I think Washington are going to have a little bit of trouble scoring tonight, even if Wall's in net, because I think Toronto maybe plays a little bit more defensively tonight. They got behind early last night. And it's funny, last week we were on the show and I said about how I kind of like the Washington under against Edmonton, and because Washington's playing so, really good on defense, and Edmonton probably throws 7 goals up against them. So, but if you took that game away, Washington has been really good on defense. They've only allowed 8 goals, I believe, in 6 other games there. But I actually believe you can change the sweaters. Toronto, Edmonton, they're almost the identical club. Lots of talent, not so good on defense, very suspect goaltending at times. The only difference is that Edmonton, it looks like they have a coach now, and we all know how I feel about Keith and probably everybody else that watches here. So for me, I think this could be another 4-1, maybe even 5-1 game. I really like Toronto in this one. The price is definitely right. Give me Toronto, Carmine.
Yeah, Buster, listen, I tend to agree with you. I'm not really worried about like any early changes in the line. Which, it opened at I think 135, 140. It's at 135 now, and that's just because some action is starting to come in. But a little bit of the action that coming in on Washington could have to do with some of the Leafs injuries. This is going to be now the 5th game that the Leafs will be without Mitch Marner. They were 2-0-1 without Mitch Marner heading into last night's game. Now they're obviously they're 2-1-1 now. So so this is their fifth game without him, and he has an effect on the team. Him not being there, his recovery chances, our takeaways are the highest I think on the team. Without him, you look at Austin Matthews, a guy who Matthews having a great season, on pace for like 70 goals, and there's a drop off now because without Marner, his XG number has gone down. The expected goals, his CF percentage has gone down as well too. He needs that playmaker on the line, and it makes it tough. So there's a trickle down effect when you're missing a guy like Mitch Marner, and you look at Lyubushkin's out illness, you look at Yarnrock head injury, Giordano concussion. All these guys are small pieces to the pie, but when you're missing them, you have to rejig those third and fourth lines, and you need those third and fourth lines to get you into games. We've seen some games yesterday, the day before, where the third and fourth lines were the best lines for the teams to get them back into games. This is the second of a back-to-back for the Leafs. Their 9 previous situations, they're 5-4, 6.11 goals on average scored in those games. This opened at 6.5, is down to 6 now, and I think it has more to do with both of what I mentioned, or what you mentioned and I mentioned, is Washington's been playing some pretty good D. Leafs are missing some pieces of their offense right now. But prior to that loss in Philadelphia, the Leafs were 7-0. We're on a 7-0 run off a loss in their next start. So now 7-1. I tend to think the Leafs are going to bounce back here. You look at Washington, and listen, there's a part of me, you guys know who are my clients, because I released Washington not to make the playoffs this last week. There's a part of me that does not want them to win this game and does not want them to make the playoffs. They've had 2 road trips out west, that a 4-gamer and a 5-gamer. One of them finished their first start back in one of them was against the Montreal Canadiens. They lose that game. I believe it was 5-2 at home. Previous to that, they head out west for a 5-game road trip, come home, lose to the Dallas Stars by a 5-4 scoreline. So they're 0-2 off West Coast trips, their first back. And the schedule for Washington, as I mentioned, the next 11 days for Washington will make or break them. I'm not even sure a 3-3 is good, but they would take a 3-3. They play the Leafs tonight, Carolina, Winnipeg Jets, a 4-point game against the Detroit Red Wings, who will have Larkin back and somehow rose from the dead like the Phoenix or the Undertaker to win that game against Columbus. And then they finish off with Toronto and Boston on the road. Those are a tough 6 games for this Washington team. They may want 3-3. 4-2 puts them in the driver's seat to make a playoff spot, but ultimately it is a tough schedule for Washington. First back off a road trip, 5 games out west. I'm going to take the Leafs tonight. If it's 130, 135, 140, I think it's the right play, even with Marner out. And I'm going to have a player prop at the end of the show for you guys on this one. All right, Buster, we go from a game that has importance to one that has importance for only one team and not 2. The Arizona Coyotes taking on the Dallas Stars, visiting the Dallas Stars. The line in this one, -300 for Dallas, +240 for the Coyotes. The total here is at 6.5. I'm going to go to you for this first on this one. 3 teams yesterday were -300 or higher. All 3 teams won, of course. So give me your thoughts on this one. How can you find a positive in a game in which has a -300 price, Buster?
Yeah, Carmine, and it's funny. We talk about how both of us we just don't lay big favorites at all, not even close. I mean, I won't even lay for the most part. 170, 180, I'm not laying. 165 is probably about my highest that I'll even lay. But it is funny because now that we're getting at this time of year, the cream usually does rise to the top. I've been playing a lot of these games in the 220, 200 range. Been playing those teams in regulation, like Minnesota last night. There's been a lot of those teams have been winning against bad teams in regulation. But like you say, now you got a Dallas team at home. laying that kind of 3-1. Really tough. But as you said, it means a lot to this Dallas club. What a great battle for the first place in the West. I think there 4 teams within a 1 point. I think I didn't look at it today, but it's something else to get that number
Yeah.
1 seed. Well, Dallas hasn't played since beating LA 4-1 on Saturday, and we do like them to win. But now here's what do you do? The problem is you can't lay the 300. In regulation, I believe it's 160, 165. So that leaves us with the puck line. And the puck line is at 115 right now. And Dallas has really kind of dominated this Arizona club. They've won 5 straight. They did beat them 4-3 this year in a close game, the only game that they've played. You know what, Carmine? I was looking through some stats. They're 17-1 the last 18 at home against Arizona. Now, I know that has maybe overtime wins in there involved, and with a win by in regulation at that high, so it's not really on that puck line, but still 17 out of 18 games at home they've won. Now Arizona has won 2 straight, and they haven't played since Saturday as well. But I know you're like myself, Carmen, always looking ahead at those schedules, and I'm sure you noticed this as well. This schedule is weird for Arizona. I haven't seen anything like that this year, but maybe it's because they play at that arena and scheduling might be different with, I think, because they have to share that arena with Arizona State University. I'm not too sure about that, but I think they do. Because they came home from a 4-game road trip. They beat New Jersey on Saturday. Now they come to Dallas for 1 game on the road, like 2 days later. And then their next 7 are at home. So to me, I'm thinking, they get home, they do what they got to do and all that. Oh, geez, we got to go on the road for 1 game, and it means nothing anyways. So to me, I don't know, maybe Arizona don't even bother showing up tonight. I know they have a good team. Who will show up as their goaltender usually. So I expect Dallas to have about 40 shots on goal. Whether they can win by 2, that's another thing. As far as for the total here at 6.5, the last 6 games between these clubs, the total has been 4-1-1 because there was a 6 in there at one time and they pushed that 6. And even though we talked about this all season, Carmine, that big over streak that Dallas had at home, it was something ridiculous, like 13-1 at one time. Well, it's been going. Some games have been going under. They've been playing some tough teams like Carolina and teams like that. So they have had some unders at home, but it's still 14-6 to the over. And I'm not sure how much defense Arizona is going to want to play tonight. They may just go and go all out. And it was a 4-3 game the first game, so don't really want anything part of the total. What I'm going to do, Carmine, is I'm going to wait and see at 3-1. I got to believe maybe there's going to be some buyback on that Arizona. Maybe I can get that Dallas down to in regulation to maybe 160, 155. Maybe play them there. Or play the puck line. I think it's 120 right now. Maybe get it down to 110. But I do like Dallas in this spot. I think that's the only way you can go for me. Thank you.
You don't have to thank me, Buster. We love having you on Wednesdays, and I appreciate you making the change with the Prez on Tuesdays. Lawrence could only do Tuesdays, so you bit the bullet and I went to Wednesdays, and maybe good karma will work in your favor. Buster, you mentioned the regulation line here. I don't hate it. At 165, I actually like it in this spot. Listen, Arizona, they were on a horrendous losing streak on the road. I think they had lost 11 in a row. Then they went into Ottawa against this and somehow beat a struggling Ottawa team. And then I always talk about whether it's a long winning streak or whether it's a long losing streak. I like to take, if a team breaks a losing streak, I love to take them in their next start because you're going to get plus money on them normally. And the other way around is a team on a long win streak loses one, and you see them all of a sudden drop 2 or 3 in a row. It is just one of those things. I think when you're on a streak, you want to keep it going, and then there's either relief or angst, whatever you want to call it, on both sides when that streak does get broken. They win in Ottawa, and then they go to Washington, and they win in Washington as well too. Sort of returned back to normal in their next game where they got pounded, but overall, you look at them and they beat Detroit before heading back home. against a struggling Detroit team as well too. Now I'm making excuses for going against Arizona. You don't really need a lot of excuses. I just think this Dallas team is right now vying for that number one spot, and such a favorable schedule over the next 7 days, I think, or so for the Stars, that they have to use Ottinger in goal every single game. That's the only time you ever want to worry, is whether it's not going to be Ottinger in goal. They play Arizona tonight. In a couple of days, they play the Pittsburgh Penguins, who just are they've given up. It just seems like they've given up. Then they play Arizona again, and then they get San Jose. Like, for me, those should be. You still have to play the game on the ice, but those are 4 Ws. It's just, what price are you going to get on them, because the bookmakers are going to price it accordingly. They're going to be somewhat big favorites, maybe with the exception of the Pittsburgh Penguins. You'll see them at maybe minus 170-ish against the Pens, but they're going to be minus 250 or more against Arizona. 300 tonight. They'll probably be minus 200 in Arizona, and then they're against San Jose. They'll probably be minus 250 to 300. It's got to be Dallas here for me in this one. I can't touch the total. You mentioned the total. Dallas was on a great run. I think at one point it was 21-4. It's now looking at where is it here? Let me look at EV Analytics has Dallas's home total record at 24-10. That in itself is impressive. The problem I have here is you're going to need them to get a majority of the goals unless you feel Arizona can score. Arizona right now is averaging on the road 35 games, 11 wins, 19 losses. They are averaging 2.86 goals per game. Their team total is at 2.5, and I believe the VIG is on the under 145 on the 2.5, under 2.5 goals. So they're basically telling you something, or the way the line is priced at the very least, is that this is a Dallas win. 5-1, everyone's happy if you're on Dallas. If you're on the total, you're not, because at 4-1 and 5-1, you very rarely see the goalie getting pulled when a team is down by 3 goals, especially a team who is not playoff bound or trying to get into the playoffs. They just don't pull their goalies at that point, because it's a meaningless game for them. So with that said, regulation for me, Dallas minus 165. Buster, I'm good with that one. Guys, loving the comments from you guys. Some great comments in the video yesterday after it was posted. We try and respond to them as much as we can, so really appreciate you guys doing that. Just keep it going, share some info. We always enjoy it here, and hit that like button as well too while you're at it. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to the channel as well. All right, Buster, a game that has some meaning to it, Minnesota and the LA Kings. Let me cue this up for you. 2 teams on a back-to-back having played last night. Now, the Kings were at home, but Minnesota was in Anaheim. It's a very short trip. They probably didn't even travel last night. It's probably a morning travel day, optional skate, and then play the Kings. Both goalies are confirmed in this one. Marc-Andre Fleury and big save Dave Riddick in goal for the Kings. Minnesota, 12 instances of back-to-backs, 4 wins, 5 losses, 3 OT losses. The LA Kings, 2 wins, 6 losses, 2 OT losses. Give me your thoughts on this game.
Yeah, Carmine, I love when you always say "big save, Dave," because I don't know if you're kind of being a little sarcastic or not, but anyways,
No, Buster. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you for a second.
yeah, no worries. Yeah,
So there's a site where you can look at some stats and stuff. It's called Hockey Reference, and when you punch in a player's name, if he has nicknames, it'll list it on his profile. And under Dave Riddick, it's Big Save Dave. So you get some funny nicknames for these guys. It's just like, Patrick Kane, Showtime, or Kaner. There's a bunch of nicknames for players, but Big Save Dave is stuck in my head, so I throw that one at Andrew every once in a while. But sorry to interrupt your breakdown in this game, so I'll cue it up for you. Go ahead. Give me your thoughts on this game, Buster.
Yeah, not at all. It's just funny because every once in a while I'll catch the show, and it just so happens when LA's on, I hear you say that. It always makes me chuckle, right? But I don't think we've been on knowing that Riddick's going to be in net tonight. But as you said, yeah, both teams confirmed their goalies because right away, which you really don't even see that happen, even if they know that those guys are gonna play. But they were confirmed last night, like at midnight. They'd already confirmed them, to play. So that's always good to have to help your handicap for sure. As you said, Carmine, both teams playing on a back to back. And as you also mentioned, for Minnesota, it's literally 30 minutes from Anaheim to Los Angeles. I'm not sure if they take a bus up there, they'll travel. I don't know. Maybe they're driving a bunch of limos. Who knows what they'll do? But probably shoot up this first thing this morning to do that, get a skate in. But and you must have been reading my notes, Carmine, because I was going to talk about what these guys have done in back to backs. But for me, I don't like putting in those overtime. Minnesota have gone 4-8. They're 12. They've lost 8 games. For me, it's win or lose. None of this overtime stuff, overtime losses. And I know they get a point and all that, but they're 4-8. They've won 4, lost 8. LA, 2 wins, 7 losses. So both these teams tells you that they're bad on a back-to-back. The only game that they've played this year so far was a 7-3 LA victory. Now, laying 155 here, the way both clubs have been playing on back-to-back, for me, I don't know. Minnesota needs these points. There's no doubt. So they're coming to play. For me, the game on the line is just a full pass. But we're getting a 5.5 here on 2 teams off back-to-back games and a game like they've already played 7-3 this year. I know everything screams under about this game. I took Buffalo and Seattle earlier this week in a similar situation. It all screamed under, but I know when you watch a lot of hockey for over the number of years I have, sometimes just situations seem to override trends of certain teams. And I think this is one of those nights tonight. And we talked about it too. Both teams might be, back-to-back, little leg weary. Minnesota, they're going to come after them. They know that they can't play some defensive hockey and hope to win 2-1. And they've got their backups. Fleury's going to be in net. If I can get a 5.5, I know he's been playing pretty good lately, but if I can get a 5.5 with Marc-Andre Fleury in net on the road against a pretty good offensive hockey team, even though LA has trouble sometimes scoring goals, but still, Fleury on the road, 5.5, yes, please. I'll take that over all day long, especially 5.5. Now it's minus 115, I believe, or something like that. So, yeah, I'm in for that. And like I said, Minnesota needs these points, so they're going to be going. And, just can't. I would love to give a side here, but you know what? That line's just a little bit too high for LA, and Minnesota is desperate need, and sometimes desperate need of points will put a fire under a team. Give me the over, Carmine, 5.5 for me.
All right, Buster, it's interesting because I was looking at the total in this game. I was trying to figure out if I could find like any kind of slim, advantageous angles for it. The Fleury one is probably the biggest one. Listen, he's still a good goalie, but when you look at his numbers versus East and West conferences, he's much better against the East. I think he's like 8-3 and I think he's 8-3-1 against the East, 8-8-1 against the West. And you want to beat the West teams. You want to beat every team, but you want to beat the West teams because those are the ones you're ultimately looking at competing with for a playoff spot. The one thing, and I'm going to give you a couple things. I saw Chris Otto in our chat. And Chris has a lot of good first period info that he tracks and period info that he tracks, but I'm looking at this from a different aspect. I'm going to play the first period in this game. And this is one of the reasons. I have a few reasons, but here's some statistical numbers with a bit of an advantage, I would think, in my favor. At home, the LA Kings in the first period against the money line this season, 15 wins, 7 losses, 11 pushes. So 11 ties after one period of play. Positive units for that. It's not much, but 4.65. Which is a 9.34 ROI on your money. The Minnesota Wild, 9 wins, 14 losses, 12 pushes, 0-2-3 their last 5 games on the road, minus 4.7 units, minus 12.02 ROI. The LA Kings, building off of that 15, 7, and 11, are 2, 1, and 2 their last 5. So profitable there. They're also 4, 1, and 5. So 9 of 10 times, if you bet the LA Kings on the money line at home in their last 10 games, you have either cashed or pushed. You've only lost once. The Kings are minus 138 money line first period. I'm going to take it because I don't want to be involved in this game late in the game. And herein lies the reason, Buster, is we saw what Minnesota did by pulling their goalie in overtime to try and beat Nashville. I think it was Nashville that they beat in a game that they needed. They're on the outside looking in right now. This LA team is 5 points ahead of them. The Vegas Golden Knights are only 3 points ahead of them. Who's to say this team does not pull a goalie again? It is really weird. I don't want to be involved in a game in which a team plays outside of the norm of how they do the rest of the regular for most of the regular season. So you could say, well, I'll take the LA Kings because if Minnesota pulls their goalie. Well, it didn't work if you took Nashville when Minnesota pulled their goalie 3-on-3 in overtime. I don't want to be involved in those situations. I'll look at it during the last week of the NHL season. I don't want to be involved in those types of games this early in the final month of the regular season. So Kings first period minus 138. Any thoughts on that, Buster?
Yeah, actually, you know what, Carmine, I do like that play. Yeah, because I do like the Kings here a bit because I think they're the better team, obviously. And again, even though I had mentioned Fleury does play a lot better of late, I just don't trust him on the road. I still don't really trust him. Period. I think you know he's not going to see if they can somehow keep winning and somehow get into the playoffs. I know it's going to be very, very tough for them to do that. But you know what? There's still 14 games left. Teams get on long winning streaks at the end of the year and pull some stuff. But yeah, I like that play, Carmine. And I just wanted to mention you talked about Minnesota doing that, and that's another reason why you have to watch these totals. I think if you saw last night, out of 13 games, I think 9 games went over, and but I just want to talk, since we have a few minutes here, quickly about last night on these couple of these lower totals. I believe the Winnipeg Rangers game was 5.5, and it was like 3-1 pretty late, if I remember. Next thing you know, it's 4-2. And I've talked on here all the time about games where, you can turn 3-1, 2-1 into 4-2 easily. And that's why I do like betting games over 5.5 if it seems right. A lot of times I'll just pass for the most part, but if it seems right. Now, I even had a game the last night, my only NHL loser last night. I had over 6 in that Vancouver Buffalo game. I just stopped Buffalo back to back. They would, I knew Vancouver needed to start playing more offense. But if you watch that game, I almost fluked a push out of it. They scored, it was 2-1. 2-1 with 2 minutes. They put it one in the empty net, makes it 3-1. Buffalo scores. They pull their goalie again. They score, makes it 3-2. The guy had an open chance. He shoots twice and hits the defenseman twice on the open net, or I push that game. 4 goals, it would have been in 2 minutes. If that was a 5.5, it's over. My point being is, and just like the point you just made, Carmine, about teams playing a little bit different or whatever, yeah, these teams might start pulling goalies at 3-1 and 4-1 and stuff like that. So to get over that 5.5, I guess my point here for everyone, don't bet any 5.5s under for the rest of the year. Once you hit the playoffs, start hammering those 5.5s under. But I mean, for the rest of the year, strange things, as you said, can be happening, Carmine.
I'm looking forward to the playoffs. It's been a good run in 2024 after a miserable start. I'm always transparent on the show. I talk more about being transparent when you lose than I do on patting myself on the back when I win. But I did go 4-0 last night, picked up like 12 units, so I was pretty happy about that. But to your point, yeah, I think it's 3 straight games now involving the Winnipeg Jets where there's been a goal with like 10 seconds or less. Last night was 8 seconds. For me, they scored in a game I think in which I had over 5.5. They scored the 6th goal with 5.5 seconds left on the clock, and those are the ones when you have the under, it's so disheartening with those games. Totals are always very tough because you look at that game against the Rangers and it was scoreless after one, and the thought is at this point the live in-game total was I think 4.5. With a ton of juice on the under, and by ton, I think it was like minus 170, minus 180, and then shortly thereafter, it was at 3.5, and then all of a sudden, you get 4 goals in the second period. It's 3-1, and you start to worry about it. But the Winnipeg Jets, Andrew got them at a very good price, 14-1 to win the cup. They may not be getting as much respect as they rightfully deserve, but they are playing well, and that's a big win going into New York to beat the Rangers. All right, guys, we are going to get into our best bet segment of the show. Buster, March Madness around the corner, starts tomorrow. Just a ton of games from noon onwards. Best of luck to everyone and yourself for taking part of it. Tell us what you have up at WagerTalk and give us a show best bet.
Yay, thanks, Carmine. Yeah, really looking forward to this weekend. I always bug you about being a shut-in in Canada because it's cold and you don't want to leave the house and everything. Well, it's about 95 right now as I speak here in Mexico. It's really heated up, and I'm going to be a shut-in for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday with the college basketball. That's for sure. I probably won't leave the house, maybe go for the walk. So, so I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to this hockey playoffs, as you had mentioned, Carmine. Really looking forward to the hockey playoffs. But so, in saying all that, head on over to WagerTalk, where we have a promo code for a 7-day all-access pass. You use a promo code Buster7. That's Buster7, and you get $30 off a 7-day all-access pass. That'll be great for the tournament coming up, and of course the NHL. So head on over to the site and check that out. Our show play for tonight, with only 3 games, I've gave my 2 plays that I put out to my clients on the show today. But the other play that I'm putting out for the NHL is going to be a player prop, and we're going to go with Matt Duchene to get a point, minus 130. Now Matt has really struggled of late. He's only had a point in 3 of his last 10 games. But he's still hitting 61% on the season. And now he gets to play one of his favorite teams in Arizona. He has won 8 straight games with a point against Arizona. They only played once this year, 4-3. Matt had 2 points in that game. So our show play is going to be Matt Duchene to get a point, minus 130. I just want to mention, and Carmine will probably reiterate this as well. We do a lot of breakdowns on WagerTalk TV with shows. Like, so during the week on a Tuesday, well, today won't be a day because Wednesdays we've talked about the 3 games, but Thursday, if there's 10, 12 games, a bunch of us, Brian, Carmine, Andrew, myself, we will break down other games. And you can find those games on WagerTalk TV. So if you like our breakdowns of a particular game, go over there, check it out daily, and especially when there's big nights of NHL. Check that out over there. Give us a like, subscribe, and as always, best of luck with all your plays. Best of luck with March Madness, and have a great day.
Yeah, Buster, I got to give you credit. I get the schedule over to Chris in our Detroit office for the games that we're not going to feature on PuckTime. So you guys can all do videos. You and Brian just keep pumping them out, which is great. You guys are doing a great job. I'm a little jealous because, man, you're getting some beautiful weather down there in Mexico. Andrew's in Punta Cana, lying down on a beach right now, drinking mimosas and probably watching this show, although he's not commenting. Meanwhile, we got like a layer of snow up here north of Toronto. I'm not happy about that. You guys are enjoying the weather, and I look pale, man. But with that said, keep enjoying the weather. Hopefully, good weather's around the corner. Guys, my show best bet, I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction with this one. Normally, when I look at shot props for players, I'm basing it on like a 5 or 10 or 15 game stretch for these players. or how they fare well on the road. But I'm taking William Nylander tonight, over 3.5 shots, minus 115. A couple reasons for this. He's doing some double duty right now. A little more time on the power play, a little more time on the ice, picking up extra shifts because of the fact that Marner is out, and Marner will remain out tonight as well too, from what I read last night. So he's going to get some extra shifts. One game against Washington this year, he had 4 shots on goal. It's the double duty thing. And you look at Washington, first game back from a road trip out west. They allowed 38 shots against the Dallas Stars in a losing effort. And then I think they allowed 30 shots against the Montreal Canadiens in the first one back. So we'll see what the shot volume is tonight for the Leafs. But the Leafs to bounce back off that loss last night, and hopefully Nylander is a part of that. So over 3.5 shots, minus 115 is your show best bet. Off that 4-0 night, just going to mention 2 plays up on the card tonight in the NHL, and that promo is still available if you want to grab it. The rest of the NHL season and every single play through the Stanley Cup Finals for only $2.49. That's less than $3 a day. The sooner you grab it, the more games you will get. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Love the comments. Drop your comment in the comment section below later on. Let us know if you have any questions for us for future shows or things you want us to cover. We really appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button. Of course, like the video, and best of luck tonight. And with March Madness, which kicks off tomorrow. For myself, Don Buster, and our production staff, this is Puck Time. We'll